experience opportunities. I am Dina Berggren, one of the Career Services Advisors at Walden University. For those of you who are not familiar with the Walden Career Services Center, our mission is based on preparing our learners to navigate career transition through educating, coaching, and advising. Here is our Career Services team. My picture is featured here on the left, followed by my colleagues, Nicole Skalski, Denise Pranke, and Andrea Obricky. Our Senior Director of Career Services is Lisa Cook. Joining us today is also Dr. Kristi Cannon. She is the Field Experience Director for the School of Counseling. Dr. Cannon supports students and faculty in all aspects of the field experience process. In addition to her work at Walden, she maintains a small clinic practice in Austin, Texas, where she specializes in neurofeedback therapy as well as the treatment of adolescent and women's issues. She is a licensed professional counselor in Texas and a national certified counselor. She is active in many state and national counseling organizations. She engages in research, publication, and presentations at the state and national level. Dr. Cannon serves as an editorial review board member for the Journal of Humanistic Counseling and also for the Journal for Creativity and Mental Health. And with this intro, I would like to hand it over to you, Dr. Cannon, to get us started and discuss our objectives for today's session.
Wonderful. Thank you, Dina, so much, and thank you all for joining us for this call. I definitely wanted to make sure that we hit on some things that are very appropriate for all of our students as they're planning on moving into field experience. So we have a pretty jam-packed agenda today. Want to make sure that you all know one of the things that we want to hit on is first starting off with identifying what is the purpose of field experience. Why do we have field experience as part of your counseling curriculum, and what does that ultimately lead to? Then we want to spend some time talking about strategies on how you want to conduct a proactive search when you're looking for finding a field site. We also want to spend quite a bit of time on talking about how to market yourself and then marketing Walden University, because these are really key pieces in being able to land a really solid field experience. We'll also spend a little time talking about creating and tailoring application materials to highlight your unique qualifications, things that will be applicable to you certainly from the standpoint of a student moving into any profession, but specific to the needs that you'll have in trying to land a good field experience opportunity. And then Dina's going to spend quite a bit of time talking with you on how to develop a step-by-step plan to really land that field experience site for you. So we're hopeful that the information that we share today is going to be of great value and interest to you as well. We'll move on to that next slide. So starting off, let's spend a little time talking about the purpose of field experience. As I started off the conversation, I mentioned the fact that it is part of your program requirement. For us in counseling, all of our counseling programs, both at the master's and the doctoral level, have a field experience component that stems from not only our particular program requirements, but our accreditation requirements. And we have this in place because clearly we want you to demonstrate the skills and the objectives that you are learning in your actual academic curriculum. So it's placed at the tail end of your program with the intent and purpose, of course, to put into practice all of the things that you've been doing, learning, participating in, both in your academic curriculum as well as at residency. It's also very important for each of you to have a field experience component in preparation for licensure. Some of our master's programs require field experience for licensure. Others are not licensure leading programs, but we still have that component because, again, we understand that this is one of those fields where you actually need to be able to be seen and observed in what you're doing, have the opportunity to practice, have the opportunity to be in supervision to do so before moving in and working with actual clients. I often will mention the fact that we don't work with widgets in this profession. We work with people. So fundamentally, it's just one of those things that we need to make sure that we're doing to help you prepare and have the skills necessary to move forward for postgraduate work. In addition to, of course, licensure, again, we want to really help you flesh out development of your counseling skills. So you'll have a great period of time in your curriculum where you're learning the skills, you're learning the theory and the philosophy of them. You'll spend time in your techniques course where you're actually practicing some of those skills. You'll attend residency 1 and 2, and again, where you'll have opportunities to put into practice the things that you're learning in the actual curriculum. And then you move into field experience where you actually start planning and actively participating in weekly activities with clients, working one-on-one. And that's a really important and fundamental part of your growth and development. Additionally, you'll be gathering exposure to the counseling field, getting to see all the ins and outs that come with that outside of just working directly with clients. You have an atmosphere where you're working with colleagues and professionals. You have an ethical obligation that you have to start implementing and working with clients. So you start to get an exposure to that piece of it and how it expands further beyond, again, the academic realm. This also offers you opportunities to network and mentor and build references that you'll need not only as a student, but certainly as you're moving forward to postgraduate work to build out any potential future career opportunities for you, and again, to put you further and build you further into our counseling profession. And finally, it's helping you in assisting in building marketability. One of the challenges you may find as a student, and I know it was for me, is if you're slightly introverted and it's not something that you're common or used to doing, marketing yourself as a professional can be a challenge. But it's something that we have to do fundamentally in this profession because it's one of those things where you're going to be making presentations, where you're going to be engaging with clients, with professionals, and one of those things that you have to continue to do in this profession to build out your full repertoire of skill sets. So field experience really fulfills quite a vast array of requirements for you, and I'm certainly hopeful that you find it to be a culminating and great experience at the tail end of your program. All right, if you'll move us forward. The next step is that we want to make sure that you are knowing your target. And what we mean specifically by knowing your target is really making sure that you involve research in your target of a field experience site. Often I will hear from students, you know, I'm just looking for a place, any place that will take me. And I think certainly to some extent that can be true, but what can be limiting in taking that approach is that you aren't taking the time to understand the needs of research and the needs of identifying potential sites and site supervisors who are not only going to help you meet your program requirements, but are going to help you in aiding and equipping you to locate the right opportunity for you. Be it that you want to work with a certain client population, that you want to have a certain level of supervision, that you want to be trained in a particular theory. All of these are things that you want to be thinking about in your own development, the things that are important to you, so that as you're going out and doing your site search, you're doing it with intentionality and that you have a specific goal in mind. If you want to move us on. Let's start off by, the first thing that you're going to want to do in targeting your search is to really understand your program of study. Each of our counseling programs has a specific set of requirements that have to be fulfilled, both from a site and a site supervisor perspective. And again, one of the areas that I find that students are often limited is that they don't understand significantly enough what is required of their individual program. So for this reason, I really want to emphasize the fact that each of you has access to your field experience manual. You can find this in your student portal in the form section. If you'll scroll all the way down in your form section to the very bottom, there's a section of field experience forms, and within that is your field experience manual, and it is updated regularly. We do this twice a year. So it has all of the updated information that's going to be relevant to your individual program. It's going to include all of the necessary requirements for your field site, inclusive of who you can see, who you can't see, as well as who your site supervisor can be and the qualifications that they have. And this lends itself from our KCREP accreditation. All of our programs are built on the standards of KCREP, which stands for the Council of Accreditation for Counseling and Educational and Related Educational Programs. It's very important that our students understand these requirements because oftentimes sites will support students from a variety of programs and from a variety of different schools of thought. So for example, social work And sometimes those requirements very much overlap and align, and sometimes they do not. So it's very important that you as a student really know if you're, for example, in our mental health counseling program, that your site cannot be strictly substance abuse, because that's not going to afford you the opportunity to work with mental health counseling clients, whereas perhaps a dual diagnosis facility might. So you just want to be very familiar with the requirements of your program. Make sure you're aware of that information and that you can access in your field manual on a regular basis. In addition to that, we want to make sure that we're emphasizing, particularly for our master's programs, that your approved site supervisor has to be on site with you at all times that you are seeing a client. This is a policy that we have for our field courses that certainly does exceed any requirements KCREP has, but something that we want to do and we do require from a fundamental perspective of how we can ensure that you are overseen and provided appropriate supervision. So very important that you know this going in, that you can communicate this to your site supervisor or any potential sites that you have to make them aware of this requirement, and that you can work in accordance with what that policy will mean for you at that particular site. The other requirement to keep in mind for those of you that are in our master's programs, every program outside of career counseling will have a requirement for 10 hours of leading or co-leading groups in the internship portion of your field experience. So again, as you're beginning to map out your potential sites, you want to keep some of these ideas in mind so that you make sure you find a site that will ultimately fulfill not only your individual goals, but certainly your programmatic goals as well. Okay, so you want to move us on to the next slide.
Now let's get some input from the audience here today. If you would like to chat in your responses in the questions box, what are some ways to research a potential field experience site? So I'm going to take just a minute to see what type of responses we are getting here. So how would you research a potential field experience site? What are some ideas? Okay, one idea is to call a site you are interested in to see if they accept interns. The internet and web pages, absolutely, internet research is very, very helpful. And looking at websites, looking at various facilities, researching their history, mission, client population, job titles, potential supervisors, and some of the challenges they might have. Look them up online. Absolutely, again, as mentioned here, talk with the administrator of the site. So contact the site and ask to speak with the administrator, or even do a site visit to take a look at the environment, employees who work there, the atmosphere. Pick up some brochures to learn more about that particular site. If you know of some sites already, you can do a Google-related search. Talk to counselors in my area. Absolutely. Talk to other professionals. For instance, if you belong to a professional association, such as the American Mental Health Counseling Association or the American Counseling Association, you can talk to other professionals and get tips and insights from them. Okay, find out, do some research to assure that the site has an appropriate supervisor. Do a search for local mental health facilities. So check directories and yellow page searches. Dex Online is a great way to search for facilities in your area as well. Volunteer with an organization to try out a fit. Absolutely. If you are volunteering at a certain organization, there may be opportunities for you to complete a field experience site. Professional peer referrals, absolutely. Where have other Walden students completed internships and practica, and talking to other individuals in the Walden community and in the social services programs. Okay, States 211 Health Services, and also through LinkedIn. So many wonderful, wonderful ideas. Also networking with family and friends, former coworkers or current coworkers, and joining LinkedIn groups, using LinkedIn, which is the largest professional networking site, to help you gain insider information and connect with other counseling professionals. So thank you so much for this input. And we're going to go ahead and move on. And next, Dr. Cannon, will you share your insights into site supervisor requirements?
I certainly will, and I thank you all for those great ideas. I think they're tremendous, and I will certainly echo the fact that to the extent possible that if you can get exposure to a site and what they do, and certainly I love the idea of the volunteering, getting yourself acclimated to that I think is a wonderful first step for students in terms of being able to get some sense of what the site is going to offer. So really great ideas there. In addition to knowing the program requirements, the thing that you're going to, of course, want to keep in mind specific to your site supervisor is that we do have requirements, again, that lead from our KCREP accreditation on who can and who cannot serve as a site supervisor. So I want to just spend a little bit of time briefly walking you through these so, again, that you're prepared for not only finding a good site, but making sure that that site supervisor has the qualifications that will ultimately serve you and allow you to be approved to work at that agency or setting. In the counseling master's programs, our site supervisors are required to hold at least a master's degree in counseling or a related profession. For us, related professions include social work, psychology, and marriage and family therapy. So those are kind of the key areas that we're looking for. They need to also hold the appropriate certification or license that goes along with that degree. So a licensed clinical social worker, a licensed psychologist, a licensed marriage and family therapist. And that license has to be the terminal clinical degree. So, for example, you could not have a licensed master social worker who's under supervision provide you supervision. They have to make sure that they have that terminal license, that they are able to practice as a clinician on their own. So something to keep in mind there. They need to be certified or licensed in the state, district, or province that you will reside in. So if you live in Alaska, for example, it's expected that your site supervisor will be licensed in Alaska. If they have a license elsewhere, that's wonderful, but unfortunately that's not going to allow them to provide you the necessary supervision. So make sure that that's something that you keep in mind as well. They need to have at least 2 years of pertinent professional experience in the program area where you're practicing. So if you're going in as a marriage, couple, family counseling student and want to be working with couples and families, we need to make sure that your site supervisor has at least 2 years of providing service in that area. They're also going to need to have relevant training in counseling supervision. And this is different than experience. So you may have a supervisor who has been providing supervision to other supervisees for many, many years. But we actually, because we have our KCREP requirements, and they do require training in supervision, we have this other requirement in our programs. So it's important that you keep in mind and inquire about the supervisor's training in supervision. This can be a variety of different training modalities. They could have received extra training in their counseling or doctoral programs. They could have attended continuing education seminars that have provided them this additional training. We also will be providing and requiring our site supervisors to participate in a site supervisor orientation ahead of the start of each term. For those supervisors who do not have the training in supervision required, they can provide, or we can provide, a specific 1-hour training program that requires them to actually take a quiz at the end, and they would also qualify for a continuing education unit at the end of that, which would then allow them to have met this requirement. So it's not something that would prevent someone from being a site supervisor, but again, something you want to pay attention to and just let them know if they don't have that training, it will be required of them before you can start the field experience. For our doctoral programs specific to practicum, all of the same requirements are required of your site supervisor as are required of our master's students. The additional requirements that you have is that you need to make sure that you have a supervisor who is either a state licensed supervisor, so if your state has an LPC supervisor credential, that they hold that credential, or that they otherwise meet the requirements of your state to be a supervisor for licensees in your particular state. So for postgraduate licensure work, that they're approved to be a supervisor for that person. If you have any questions specific about this, of course, you can always reach out to me or reach out to our field office to inquire further. The other thing to keep in mind is that you want to make sure you're consulting your state licensure requirements, because some state licensure bodies do require supervision requirements that exceed any of our particular program requirements. You want to make sure that you're clear on that and that you're able to address that directly if that's the case for you. Now I'm going to turn this back over to Dina, who's going to spend a little time talking with us about professional branding.
Thank you, Dr. Cannon. Now that we've discussed researching the site, let's focus to your professional brand, or what makes you stand out from other field experience applicants and counseling students. To help us with this, let's go ahead and launch a poll. How well do you know your professional brand? Yes, I know my unique strengths, abilities, and value and can market them effectively. I have some ideas about my brand, but I'd like to develop it further. Or no, professional branding is new for me. Can you tell me more? So I'm just going to give a few seconds for all of you to make your selections here today, and we'll see what our audience says. So how well do you know your brand? Okay, we're going to go ahead now and close the poll and share the results. So 42% said, I have some ideas about my brand, but I'd like to develop it further. So today we'll be talking about some ways that you can improve and enhance your brand and be able to convey your brand to others. 33% said, no, professional branding is new for me. Can you tell me more? And professional branding is a very hot topic in career development and very, very helpful as you're trying to convey how you stand out from others in the search process. And then we had 24% who said, I know my unique strengths, abilities, and value and can market them effectively. So for those of you, hopefully you'll gain a few additional tips today about branding. Okay, and knowing your professional brand helps you stand out from others and market yourself to potential sites. Your brand is what makes you stand out from other applicants. It's what you're best known for, your greatest strengths, and it conveys how you can add value to others. In other words, when you think about your brand, you want to think about your interests, skills, personality, and values. Take time to reflect on those. What is it in your prior experience that makes you valuable as a potential intern? Think about your academic achievements and what you've accomplished. Related volunteer and work experience, the experiences that you've gained in social services related fields. Your professional contributions, maybe through professional associations. Maybe you volunteered at the ACA or attended professional events. Your contribution to your community and your involvement, and also any specialized knowledge areas. All of these help define your brand. As part of your field experience search, you'll also need to market Walden's brand. Dr. Cannon, can you share some tips on how to educate potential sites about Walden?
Absolutely. And I think it's a very good point. Again, this is one of the areas that I see students tend to struggle a little bit more. They tend to have a pretty good sense of who they are and can market themselves relatively well. But when it comes to advertising who Walden is, I think sometimes students just feel a bit ill-equipped or ill-prepared for that. So we want to make sure that you as students know going in who you are as a Walden student and what our programs are about. So again, I want to make sure that I'm referring you back to your field experience manual to make sure you, again, start off knowing the fundamentals of what's required of your program. But outside of that, talking a bit about Walden University and who we are, starting off with the fact that our Master's in Mental Health Counseling program is currently KCREP accredited. And all of our programs outside of the MHC program are actually built on the KCREP standards. And for any of you who are not familiar with KCREP, this is an accrediting body for all counseling programs used nationally and internationally to help meet the maximal standards in counseling training. So what we do when we adhere to KCREP requirements is to make sure that our students are, for lack of a better term, meeting the gold standard of the requirements of their individual training programs. So that's really important that you're clarifying that to your field sites and that they understand what accreditation means to you as a student and what your program accreditation can ultimately mean for you moving forward. It just really helps to demonstrate the rigors of our academic training, both on the ground in residencies and field experience, but also in your online environment as well. We also hold regional accreditation from the Higher Learning Commission, and this, again, is very important. We want any potential site to understand that, again, there are rigors and there are tests, and we go through regular review of all of our programs from the university all the way down to our individual schools and programs to make sure we're meeting and exceeding, in many cases, standards that are put across our varieties of programs and needs. It's really also very important to stress that social change mission. I think many of you came to Walden because you understood that, and that was a part of who you are. And I know for us as counselors, it's pretty much fundamental to who we are. We are built on social change. Our entire profession is around positive performance in clients and people, and having that sense of empowerment and knowing that people have the capacity to do great things. And so being able to really stress that social change mission, what it means for the university, how we delve into that, the variety of social change initiatives we take part in as students and professionals, and certainly anything that you're doing in your active classrooms and outside of that that really helps market that social change mission, I think, can be really fundamental and something you want to make sure you're carrying forward and sharing as well. Talking again about qualified faculty, that again, it stems from our standards. KCREP really gives us a level of requirement on who we hire, how many, what our faculty to student ratios can be, what the requirements of the training are, so the degrees that have to be held by our faculty. All of these are things that are managed by those accreditation requirements, but also something that we make a fundamental choice on when we're doing hiring. We really are looking for qualified faculty who not only have certain levels of degree, but also certain levels of experience, so that you as students reap the benefit of a lot of us as professionals who do have outside clinical practices or who are otherwise publishing and doing research in this field, that you have that sense of people who are professionals and engaging in that professional activity outside of their work at Walden. Talking again about the diverse global perspective, Walden is part of a Laureate Incorporated, which supports a variety of different universities, international and here within the United States. And so it's important to really talk about the way that we work with students here as well as international, and the fact that we have a very diverse and global perspective. You also want to talk again about national and international student populations. So we bring in students from here as well as from abroad, making sure that we have resources available to support students from international markets and can help address and assist them as well. Of course, the other thing that's really key to our program is our residency experiences. You go through a variety of different residencies depending on your doctoral program or your master's program. You get training, you get clinical experience. You are often provided opportunities to do taping and role plays to assess your skill level. So we really want to ensure that you're ready before you hit field experience. And I think those are key things to stress in any kind of communication you're doing. And then again, that final key component is our rigorous curriculum. I would be willing to bet that each of you can attest to that in your own individual experiences. Certainly for me, coming from a university where I was trained at a land-based, I can say in teaching at Walden that we do have a rigorous curriculum, and it far at times exceeds anything that you might be doing at a land-based. Because we have this online component, we really need to stretch and ensure that you understand elements like that. So these are things that you want to make sure that you are communicating to potential sites, that you have some familiarity with yourself, that you can speak to as a Walden student. So if you've not spent much time on the Walden University website, the www.waldenu.edu, I really encourage you to do so before you go out to start interviewing. This will just give you a better opportunity to look at the mission of the university, to look at the mission of our programs, the mission of our specific field experience programs, so we can really help you address and navigate and advertise the Walden University perspective, and I think that's going to give you some added leverage that you may not otherwise have or be familiar with. And again, it helps you to make others familiar with Walden who otherwise may not know of Walden or of the things we're doing here. So with that, I'm going to turn it back over to Dina to have her move us through another poll.
Okay, our next poll is a quiz. If you can type in your responses to this poll through the questions box again. And the question is, what is the most common method used by a site supervisor to fill a field experience position? Is it to review cold or generic resumes from applicants? Is it to contact potential interns at universities and colleges? Or is it to review qualifications and letters of recommendation to determine whether the applicant is a match? So what do you think? What is the most common method used by a site supervisor to fill a field experience position? Okay, let's see. We're going to give it just a couple more seconds here and then close the poll. And share the results. Okay, it looks like 8% said review cold resumes, 22% contact potential interns at universities, and 69% review qualifications and letters of recommendation to determine whether the applicant is a match. And the third selection is correct. Site supervisors want to know how your skills, experience, and academic background directly match their needs. This means that every application you send out needs to be tailored toward the specific site. If you diligently research the site and site supervisor, identify what is unique about you, and share the value of your education, you'll be able to communicate the fit between what you have to offer and the needs of your target site. Next, Dr. Cannon will tell us a little bit more about how to convey this fit to potential sites.
Wonderful, thank you. So as Dina was just mentioning, one of the things that's really key for our students is not only doing the research on the site to make sure it's a site appropriate for what I need, but also really kind of questioning, is this a good fit for me? When I've had students that have ended up terminating at a field site, it's often because there's just ultimately not a good match and not a good fit between the setting, the client, the site supervisor, any combination thereof. So it's really important as you're going in and planning for marketing yourself, doing your interviews, and securing a placement, that you really start to ask these questions of yourself. You know, what are the values and contributions you can bring? If you're going in to market yourself, what can you sell to this agency that's going to help them understand who you are as a student and that you may be a really solid fit for what they do? What knowledge and skills will be most useful? So what do you have in your toolbox, in your repertoire of skill set that really are going to make you an asset to this potential agency, site, school setting? Do your qualification match their specific needs? So who you are, what you have, the training you have, does all of that align with what they are needing in a potential practicum or internship student? Will you fit in with the people and culture? Again, this is something I think that I want you to really flesh out and think of as you're really processing this process of, do I feel like I'm going to fit in with who these people are and what they do? If diversity is a very important element of who you are and what you want to strive for in your work and your interaction, as it has been for many of our students, you want to think about how has that played out at this particular site and setting, and am I going to feel like a good fit at this location? And finally, does the site afford you the opportunities then to complete your program requirements? So again, going back to, if everything else aligns perfectly and it's just a really solid personal fit, I met my goals, they're meeting their needs, then ultimately are you able to make sure that whatever site or setting this is can afford you your program goals. So it's important, again, that you are tailoring your search, that you're researching these locations, that you have an understanding of who they are outside of the fact that they have a potential opening. Who do they serve most regularly in terms of practicum and internship students? And can you get what you need both personally in fulfillment of your goals and needs, but also from a programmatic standpoint? So make sure that you're keeping in mind that you're interviewing them just as much as they are interviewing you. All right, so we're going to turn it back over to Dina, and she's going to spend quite a bit of time talking about your application materials to get you prepared for doing this outreach.
So today I will be discussing how to create a career portfolio, cover letter, and also an academic style resume or CV. And these documents are there to help increase your chances of landing a site. So why take the time to create a career portfolio versus simply sending out a generic resume or a resume directly to the site? A career portfolio sets you apart from other applicants. So while others are sending out their resumes, you are really taking the time and the effort to provide actual samples of your work and other important information to the site to help them with their decision making. A career portfolio leaves a lasting impression. It allows the site to learn more about you and what you have to offer. It also includes accomplishments and achievements to reference during an interview. So you can actually bring your career portfolio to an interview and show examples of your work and key documents to the potential site supervisor. And Dr. Cannon, what types of documents should students include in a portfolio specific for field experience?
Well, the thing that you want to, of course, include is a cover letter, starting off with a cover letter. The first two are pretty standard for any portfolio that you might have. A cover letter specific to each individual agency that really, again, reflects the fact that you've done the research, that you're connected to who they are. It's very much tailored to the needs of that particular site. And then your curriculum vitae, which, again, Dina's going to spend some time walking you through to get you familiar with that. I know many of you are coming from different professions where a resume and kind of a short and sweet condensed version is preferred method. And moving into academia and certainly into this profession, you're moving more towards having a curriculum vitae. So it's something we want to get you a little bit more educated on if you're not familiar with. But outside of those two things, there are some specific Walden related items that I would encourage you to make sure that you're including as well, starting with that Walden University information I shared before. So doing the research on Walden, having one or two short pages that give some indication of who Walden is and what your role is as a student. Providing counseling program-specific information, so anything related to our program-specific requirements that we've mentioned before. Specific courses that you've taken, including potentially course descriptions. So if you're finding that, you know, a site has a particular need, works with a certain population, it may be important to highlight the fact that you've taken a course in adolescent and children, you know, where that may be applicable. you certainly would want to include any application papers or assignments that really demonstrate the work that you've done that, again, may be tailored to any particular need that they have. So if you've written a really strong application paper on a certain theory and that really aligns with what the site utilizes, that may be something that you want to include. The caution here is, of course, to make sure you're only including any materials that you have submitted on your behalf, nothing that also includes discussion posts or feedback from fellow colleagues. Of course, letters of recommendation. This is one of those things that's really key. If you're interacting with faculty at residency and have a strong relationship with them, I encourage you to start asking them for letters of recommendation. This can make or break an opportunity for you. I had a student who went to an interview, and she was on a panel interview with 14 others, and she was the only one with a letter of recommendation, and it came from me. And because I'd worked with her at residency, and she said it made all the difference. So I really encourage you to be thinking about that as you're going through your programs. If you're really bonding with, connecting with an instructor, make sure that you're making notes of that, of your experience, and do outreach to them, inquiring about potentials for letters of recommendation. And then certainly providing a copy of the field experience manual and all of the key elements from that to help inform the site supervisor of what our requirements are so that they're prepared for that coming on and taking you on. All right, so next we're going to look at what some specific tools are to help you create this portfolio.
Career Services offers an optimal resume system to help create an online portfolio to share with site supervisors and other counseling professionals. With Optimal Resume, you're able to access the system through the Career Services Center website, or you can go there directly through WaldenU.Optimal Resume link that is featured on the site. The first step is to create an account using Optimal Resume, and then you can use any of the features inside this very robust system. After creating your portfolio using the Portfolio Builder, you can also print out your portfolio documents, organize them into a professional-looking binder, and bring your tactile portfolio with you to the interview. That way you can show potential supervisors examples of your work and achievements and leave a lasting impression. Next, let's take a closer look at two important components of the portfolio, which are your cover letter and your academic resume or CV. Provided here is a sample cover letter for counseling field experience. Your cover letter should be written using standard business letter formatting. It should be about 3 to 5 paragraphs and be limited to 1 page in length. At a minimum, your contact information should include your name, mailing address, phone number, and email address. You may also want to include a link to your LinkedIn profile and or your online career portfolio. The introductory paragraph should identify the purpose of your letter. You should mention how you heard about this opportunity, especially in the case if another counseling professional or networking contact referred you to that particular site. You want to briefly describe why you're interested in this specific site. In this case, our applicant, Jacqueline, mentions the following. She says, I am impressed with your reputation as a leading provider of mental health services in the Detroit area since 1978. This shows that she did her research on the site and that she is truly interested in them. So specify why you are targeting that particular site. In the second and third paragraphs, you want to mention accreditation, your counseling program, and the quality of instruction. The MS in Mental Health Counseling Program is CACREP accredited, but all of our counseling programs are built on standards required by CACREP, which are the highest professional standards out there in the field. You also want to mention Walden University is a regionally accredited institution as well. include your academic achievements. For instance, our applicant here, Jacqueline, achieved a 4.0 GPA, so she lists this in her cover letter. List related coursework and also knowledge areas that you've gained through your program at Walden. Reference volunteer or paid experience and transferable skills. In this case, Jacqueline says, I have volunteered at a domestic crisis center for over a year, and I am certified in domestic violence advocacy. My technology, organizational, and communication skills required during 10 years of prior administrative assistance experience will help me contribute to your team of mental health professionals. So stress your volunteer experience or related skills. Okay, and then in the last paragraph, provide the counseling field experience director's contact information, and that would be Dr. Cannon. So the site has a contact person in case they have more questions about the program. Conclude with a general statement expressing interest in a future discussion. If you follow this format and utilize some of these tips, you can create a targeted, well-written letter that conveys your unique value as an applicant. The second document to include in your portfolio is your CV. A CV is a biographical description of your educational and work background. It places emphasis on your academic experience and professional development activities. A resume is typically limited by length. It is typically 1 to 2 pages. However, a CV can be longer in length, sometimes up to 5 to 8 pages, depending on the level of your experience. The Career Services Center website includes a complete CV guide that can take you step by step through creating the main section of your document, and provided here is a link directly to the guide. Here are some common sections of a CV that you might consider included in your documents, and these sections are also discussed and described in detail in the CV guide document. If you don't have enough experience to fill a section, so for instance, you may not have experience yet writing grants, or you don't have any publications yet, you can simply leave out that section. The number of potential CV sections and formats is almost limitless. Your CV really should be unique to you and your experiences. So these are some additional sections you may want to include in your CV. For the sake of time, I'm not going to go over all of these sections, but look at the list and see which of these sections you may have some experience in and may want to include in your document. And remember that order matters. So play your strongest cards first. For example, if you're seeking a field experience site, do not put your volunteer experience counseling adolescents all the way at the end. This type of information should be listed on the first page. Now that you have your portfolio ready, what other tools can help you market your skills? Share your many accomplishments with potential sites by developing and practicing your CART stories. To craft these stories, think of a challenge or problem that you faced, the action you took to address the challenge, what was the result or who was impacted by your action. Were people served or specific goals met in the process? And then be sure to tie the example to your future role as an intern. You want to write down these stories, memorize them, and practice them so you're comfortable sharing your stories. And avoid general terms and examples such as hardworking or great communication skills or strong work ethic. Instead, you want to show, not tell, by focusing on specific accomplishments. And so here's an example of a CART story. In 2007, I volunteered at Lawrence House, a facility for mentally ill and chemically dependent adults. During my time there, I recruited 10 patients to plant a permanent vegetable garden at the facility. My initiative helped promote physical activity, healthy eating, and sustainability, thereby improving both the physical and mental well-being of patients. As an intern at your facility, I hope to practice counseling techniques under supervision and further help mentally ill adults take initiatives in their daily lives. So you could see in the sample how she or he tied in their challenge, action, and result statements to their future role as an intern. Card stories help show that you are qualified for your target position and help you walk the talk. What are some other considerations when researching your field experience sites? In the book, The Job Hunter Survival Guide, career development guru Richard Bowles discusses the top 5 search methods for finding a job. And these search methods can be translated into the field experience search. So take a holistic approach to your search. Assess your interests, skills, goals, research environments and sites and people at those sites, and work on marketing and conveying your brand. Build a network of counseling professionals and ask for their input. Research sites and contact them by phone or by the site visit. Reach out to any site that interests you and be proactive. Knock on doors. And ask counseling professionals in your network about field experience openings. Many times through networking and talking to people, you uncover opportunities that may have not existed in the past. So keep in mind that field experience sites are looking for well-written materials, evidence of academic success, strong letters of recommendation, prior work or volunteer experience, and also they're looking for interns who are ethical, enthusiastic, and possess strong interpersonal skills. Okay, so gear up for your search. Some other tools. Create a powerful introduction. Practice your card stories and strengthen your online presence. If you're not a member of LinkedIn, it is the largest professional networking site. We highly recommend that students join LinkedIn because it's a great way to connect with other professionals, do your research, and gain tips and insights. Build field experience search skills. And finally, don't wait too long to get started. Be active and intentional in your efforts in pursuing your site. Ideally, you want to start your preparation as early as 1 year in advance. Okay? So how do you make the initial contact with a potential supervisor? How do you reach out to them? Here's an example of language you could use when setting up an informational meeting. Hi, my name is so-and-so, and I'm a graduate student pursuing a master's degree in mental health counseling at Walden University. I received your name from such and such source, and I understand that you're engaged in counseling clients with bipolar disorder and schizophrenia. I am wondering if we could meet for 20 to 30 minutes to discuss your insights into your specialty and the possibility of my completing a field experience at your site. So as you can see here, this is a very friendly, non-threatening approach. To help us pull everything together, here is a step-by-step approach you can apply during your own search. Contact the site supervisor directly by phone or in person, and arrange an informational meeting, whether it's face-to-face, via phone, or even using Skype. And the use of technology is increasing for that purpose. Dress professionally. This is your one chance to make a positive first impression, and provide targeted application materials. Meet with the site supervisor and share your stories. Ask questions. Bring some information or articles to share. And most importantly, express your enthusiasm and interest. Leave your career portfolio so they can continue to learn about you after your meeting. And follow up with a thank you letter, email, and phone. And finally, land the practicum or internship. Do you still need some more ideas? Tell everyone you know you're searching. Reach out to your network. Join special interest groups related to your field. There are professional associations. There are local meetups. There are LinkedIn groups such as Counseling Professionals, Mental Health Networking, United States Mental Health Professionals. Those are just some examples of LinkedIn groups you can join. There are also many, many others. Connect with potential supervisors through social media. Ask other experts for help and expand your search into new geographical areas, the number of facilities that you're targeting. In other words, knock on more doors to increase your chances. Be open to new settings and new populations. And work on your professional image. Finally, you want to partner up with another student or professional and practice your site search and interviewing skills. Okay, and if you need to learn more, the Field Experience Office is available for assistance, so reach out to them. Check out the Career Services Center website. Visit the Career Services site and review the Resumes and CVs tab. Schedule a career advising appointment through My Walden portal. We'd love to work with you individually. Register on Optimal Resume and view our archived webinars. And we have over 50 different career-related topics on our webinars, including Optimal Resumes, Resume Builder and Portfolio Builder, and branding webinars, LinkedIn webinars, and many, many others. So check out all of these topics and get connected with us through LinkedIn, Twitter, our blog, Optimal Resume, and access everything through our site. And with that, we have just a few minutes left for some questions. So I will go ahead and monitor the questions. Okay. One question is, will the PowerPoint be available to students to view? Yes, the PowerPoint will be archived on the Career Center website 1 week after live delivery. So check next week and it will be available for you. I know there was a lot of information that Dr. Cannon and I presented here today. So also the PowerPoint will have the cover letter sample and all of the links. Okay, so here's a question. I am confused. Does the site supervisor need a license to be a supervisor in my state? And Dr. Cannon, can you answer that one?
All of our site supervisors are required to hold a license in their degree field. So for example, counseling, our preferred license is the licensed professional counselor or whatever corresponding license exists within your state. So yes, the requirement is that our supervisors be licensed or certified dependent upon the state or territory that they live in.
Okay, and we have some great feedback that this is great information to have. which is wonderful. This is why we partnered up to deliver this program here today. And some great feedback. I really enjoyed this session and learned a lot. These webinars are essential resources for us. Some more questions. Do most students in internships get paid?
I will take that one. It certainly is a great opportunity if you can. We don't discourage you from being paid as an intern. There are a couple of situations where you could be paid and complete your field work at the same place. So if you are beginning a new employment opportunity, so you're starting your employment within 6 months of starting your practicum or internship experience, you could use your exact same job for the purposes of fulfilling field experience. So if you get hired on and they want to pay you for it, all the better. If you're at a current place of employment and they have another opportunity for you to complete field experience, so long as it's a unique learning experience, so you're not working with the same clients, you're in a new setting, new part of your office program. So for example, if you work in case management now and there's a counseling component to your agency or setting, that you can then work underneath and under a new supervisor who's not your employment supervisor. So there again, you would have that opportunity. So certainly we encourage students to seek out potential opportunities that pay them for internship. It's not always the case. I don't know the specific number of how many are paid versus unpaid, but if that is an area of interest you have, I do encourage you to make sure that you're looking for that as a potential option for you. Again, just keep in mind you don't want to start that employment any longer or any sooner than 6 months before the time you want to start field experience, because then it would be ineligible.
Okay, great. And there was one question, would Dr. Cannon advise students to include KCREP accreditation if the program is KCREP accredited, and HLC, North Central Association accreditation for 10 years in the cover letter? And I think in the cover letter sample, we do include a mention of the accreditation, or at least a mention that our programs adhere to KCREP standards, and yet mentioning the regional accreditation of North Central Association is very, very helpful, because if potential sites are not familiar with Walden University, you want to convey that we are an accredited institution. And there was another question about cover letter, the sample, and what should be included there. And the PowerPoint will be archived. So you will be able to access that cover letter and all of the information here today and be able to utilize that in your search. Okay. And we had other questions that came in. For the sake of time, I think what we will do is go ahead and Dr. Cannon, let's go ahead and maybe conclude our program here today. And if you have additional questions, please feel free to reach out to Career Services for career-related information, and to Dr. Cannon for information related to your field experience process. Okay, with that, I'm going to close the question box. So thank you for all of you who contributed to our discussions and submitted your questions. Okay, and to learn more, here are a few additional resources to help you with all aspects of your search. There are many great books out there, and also online tools that can help you define your brand, work on your search skills, be able to convey your strengths to employers, pull together strong application materials, and practice interview skills. So I can't emphasize enough the importance of practicing and being prepared for your search in your success. And this concludes our program for today. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Dr. Cannon, for joining us here today. We are available to assist you and wish you a wonderful day and good luck with your field experience search. Thank you.